10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Growing bolder, what's next?
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Growing Boulder's What's Next. Thank you for being here. I'm Bill Schaefer, and here's a question for you to start things off. What are the things that make us who we are? You know, you might say it's maybe our passions or our interests. Those are the things that make us unique. Maybe, but where do they come from? Or if you don't have any that really stand out in your mind, you're not alone, but where do they come from? Well, the answer is almost anywhere. Maybe you're born with them. Sometimes it's something that happens to you, something that you see, or somebody that you know that plants a little seed in you, and then other things happen that trigger that seed, and before you know it, it starts to take root and grow. And once that happens, those are the passions that can be there for your entire life. Things that you did in your childhood that you still love, that you're still interested, that you still like to do today. Well, we're going to talk with a fascinating guy who was able to take his passion and turn it into a career, lucky guy, which has led him on all these great adventures, and it opened the door to some unique and outrageous experiences for him that'll be great to hear about. Important, because in many cases, if you sit back and really think about the things that matter to you, the things that excite you, those can lead the way for all of us to live a fulfilling life, the life we want to live. They are what oftentimes can help a seemingly ordinary person all of a sudden be living this extraordinary life. It's why I'm really excited to introduce you to a guy named Scott Brandt, and he's going to explain how all this happened for him, and hopefully his story will inspire you to want to make something similar happen in your life. Scott did it with his interest in classic cars, beautiful cars, the cars we grew up with. He owns the largest and, dare I say, best classic car company in the entire Midwest and beyond. It's called MotoExotica, and it's been going strong now for over 30 years. So from his home in St. Louis, let's say hi to Scott Brandt. Nice and chilly there this morning, huh, Scott?
Good morning. Yes, it is. It's a balmy 12 degrees.
Oh, you must love going outside, starting that engine in that classic car.
Yeah, you just
start because they never did back then, and do it again, and then finally drive off.
Even today, you keep your fingers crossed. You know that at this kind of weather, that the battery holds up and turns the engine.
You know, it's funny, too. I think I clearly remember as a kid, you know, when Dad would drive you somewhere to school or whatever, you'd get 3/4 of the way there before you'd even feel the heat kick in.
Oh, right. Absolutely. And there were no heated seats. There were no cup holders.
Absolutely not. You were lucky if the windows would roll up, right?
Right.
Those are the kind of cars.
Absolutely.
Hey, so start off by telling us a little bit about MotoExotica. You've built an amazing business.
Why, thank you. Yes. Gosh, I've been doing this since 1987 as a full-time work, if you will. And it did start down in Florida. Family went to Fort Lauderdale, and there was the auto toy store there. And went there with the family, just perusing around. And they had a Jaguar E-Type there. And I asked the salesman, how much is that car? He's like, oh, it's $75,000. Now, this is back in the early 80s, and I'm like, you kidding me? $80-something thousand for an E-Type? When did that happen? He's like, oh, we do this all the time. I walked out with my dad and said, I can do that. You know, I always loved cars. Let's face it, we grew up. I'm a child of the 50s, born in 59, so we got some really cool stuff. We saw 67 Corvettes, you know, they were built right here in St. Louis. So I had my 8th birthday and took him there. Batman came out in 66. Very impressionable to a young man, full color. That Batmobile just spoke to me. The whole thing just kind of evoked just a way of going about life that was fun and filled and wham and pow and zap. So that Batman has kind of been a cornerstone in my life for a long time. And people say, well, what does Batman. He's a superhero. I said, no, Batman's not a superhero. He's just a man. Batman's superpower is money, quite honestly. It's what allows him to do all the things that he does. Otherwise, he's just a guy like the rest of us, donning his suit and inventing things and stopping evildoers. And boy, just recently I watched the movie The Joker, the last one. It was riveting. I will tell you, it brought a lot of things full circle through the Batman realm, brought you up to date. At the end, of course, his parents are killed in what was almost like an insurrection as well, because it was just a real poignant movie that I think a lot of people shied away from because it dealt with mental illness and things that we don't like to talk about in public. But it really set the path as to why the Joker was the way he was and became Batman's arch nemesis for many a year to come.
Yeah, I think you touched in something already that I was thinking of maybe getting into as we continue the conversation. But that's the fact that, folks, we got a great audience listening here, watching here, because it's not just about cars. Cars are, pardon the pun, the vehicle for you especially to have the real you come out. I mean, look at you. You are really, Scott, you are the coolest guy.
Thank you.
You dress outrageously awesome. You got this great, this long silver hair and a ponytail and the Zappa look. And you just really look happy. You look unique. You look like you know yourself. And maybe that's what we use our passions for, to try to find out who we are and to see what kind of reaction that gets in our social circle.
I would agree. And then further to the point of Batman. So then growing up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was a car in every television show, whether it was the Munsters, whether it was the Monkeys and the Monkey Mobile, Mr. T's Mobile. They were a personality, and somewhere along the line, probably in the 80s, the big three lost their way. That's when Japanese cars started to take hold. And you'll find then that's when cars kind of came out of being a personality and becoming more of an appliance. So I would dare say today it's pretty hard to tell a Kia from a Rolls Royce in some cases. Back when we were kids, we could tell what a car was by driving away at night by the taillights. And also our car was our cell phone. It's how we got the girl. It's how we found the party. We customized it. We made it our own. And so growing up, as many of us as your audience has, is a little different than things are today. I mean, kids don't even change the stereo on their car. There's no need.
They don't even want cars anymore, really. With Uber, why should I own a car? Do you find that are most of your customers our age or more? Do young people, are they interested in the lease?
Yes. And I've found this interesting because I don't just do one type of car. I usually look for unique and different cars because muscle cars, everybody knows what they are, and there's plenty of guys doing that. And more power to them because I've got no problem with a 67 Z28 Camaro. But it's the more obscure cars that I find of interest. And we've had numerous Batmobiles over the years. And I've had Evel Knievel's Aston Martin Lagonda that was customized, and he had put a big block Chevy motor in. Sacrilege, right? So along the way, and following that passion, and let me go back. So back from the day I go into the auto toy store. So Dad gave me a loan. I looked for a Jaguar E-Type, just like I had seen there. And lo and behold, I found one up in Iowa. I flew up to Iowa and drove that 61 E-Type flat floor, which they all had flat floors in the first year, back to St. Louis, refurbished the interior, put it on Hemmings Motor News, and sold it to a guy in Great Britain, and the rest is history. I was able to pay Dad back and handsomely made a profit and sent me on the road. Now, that said, I also went to school for interior architecture and design. And then I ended up getting my master's in fine art from WashU here in St. Louis. So art, design, cars have always been a passion. And it so what happened then is from 87 to 99, I was doing design and artwork as well as selling cars on Hemmings Motor News, right? That was the only way, really. That was the Bible of the industry. Still is to some effect. But then this thing came along, the internet, and it was eBay. And people were selling Beanie Babies on there. And so I started selling cowboy boots, of all things. I didn't start with cars, but I was doing pretty well with the boots. And I'm like, well, if I can sell these boots on eBay, I can sure sell cars. And I put a Pantera on. In fact, I even got a picture here of the first car. Right there. That's the first car. So that's my son in there. He's not even one yet. He's 23 years old now. And so eBay was the vehicle that allowed me to open and broaden my market. So went from, selling 6 cars a year to 16 cars a year to 106 cars a year. And moved from my driveway to one building, and we moved in the current building we're at now back in 04. And I've got 10 full-time employees. And so, the passion has turned into a full-time job. And it's not without its trials and tribulations, of course, because then business takes over.
Couple of big points here that I want everybody to understand, too, that you did this by following your passion. That is what you did, but that makes it sound really easy because people are thinking, wow, I have passions, but I certainly haven't started a business from them. But you really, you proved here that it didn't just drop in your lap. I mean, this happened little by little. You didn't give up. You kind of stuck with it. You kind of you floated down the stream, seeing where opportunity was. And that's when your passion kind of emerged. So it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. The second thing is that, folks, did you hear what he said here? This guy came into this industry that was set. It had its rules, its methods, and its ways of running. And Scott steps up and says, you sell boots on eBay. Why can't you sell cars? This was before eBay Motors. This was one of the first guys out there to figure out another way to connect his product with his audience. And again, it sounds so easy, but you stepped up and you made a huge difference, Scott. I mean, that's really
I would say yes. I was probably one of the pioneers, which is interesting, because you don't find many things that you can pioneer anymore these days. Because you can't do anything that hasn't been done before, but you can do it with a different twist. Yeah. You can put your own spin on it, and lots of times you just got to let it roll. And that's what I did. And one thing led to another. We started doing auctions as well. We've tried a lot of different things. We've been on a lot of different TV shows. Richard Rawlings, good friend of mine, been on his show numerous times, bought 17 cars from him in one episode. And that was real. Richard called me and said he wanted to get rid of cars. I said, I'll buy them. Let's make a deal. So a lot of interesting things have come with that passion along the way. I would say that my art and passion for art and design has waned a bit from the physical sense of actually making art. But through this avenue, I have found a way to keep my creative spirit going, as well as create a business, create a website, create a way to present cars to people in a world. That was the thing eBay brought, is a worldwide audience, and still does daily. I mean, we sell more cars out of the country a month than we do in the state of Missouri where we're from.
Man, and eBay is a great connector for whatever your interest may be. If it is in products or things from your past, that's a good place to find like-minded people. Scott, several times already you've mentioned the Batmobile, and it just so happens that you've had a few Batmobiles under your roof. Let's find this video that we found on your YouTube page, which is one of your sales guys having a little fun, and it really shows the culture you've created at your showroom. I mean, it's not like you're a coin collector or a commodities guy. It's that you believe in humor and fun. Is that what it is?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to keep life fun and fresh and interesting. So, passions are good because it stirs emotions in your soul, but sometimes, business and just dealing with taxes and dealing with insurance and dealing with employees and dealing with all those minutia in business can really get you down. I come with a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and a Master's. I never had a business degree. So I had to figure a lot of this stuff out as I went. Now, it didn't hurt that I grew up in a family business. Family were Russian immigrants. My dad and his brothers, 6 brothers and sisters, all first generation here, came from absolutely nothing. Family came here, landed in Ellis Island, and forged their way. So I had good examples in family life that showed perseverance, sticking together as family unit, pursuing your passion. Don't be afraid to be who you are. So I was very comfortable with myself at a young age because I was allowed to be myself with my family. And I find, in fact, it's interesting because I talked to a therapist friend of mine, and I said, how many of the people that you talk to on a daily or weekly basis are talking about problems that came from their childhood? And I was startled that she told me 90%. So 90% of the problems that people are dealing with now are things that they had problems with, hence 30, 40, 50 years ago, and it's still welling up inside them. So I would say it's best to get right with yourself in your head, so that doesn't cloud away, so that you can find happiness and pursue it in your life without being stymied by things in your past, and just find a way to get clear on that. So life is harder and probably a whole lot more complicated. Well, I know it is than when we were kids. It's a whole different thing. Hey, there's my son in the back. You're just like a kid, right? Hey, Leo.
Say hi. Hey,
Yeah,
Scott, I was going to say, you make such a great point, and we really cannot overemphasize that. It's not just the issues that we bring from our childhood, but it's all the good things, too, that come from our childhood. And you kind of learn that calculated risks, not just foolhardy risks.
Oh, I don't even know if they're calculated. You just go for it, I mean, somebody was asking me the other day about budget. I'm like, what's a budget?
But
seriously, I mean, budgets are good to lay out, and it's a nice path. But at the end of the day, if you got to spend more money to make something happen, and just because you wrote that budget down and it's steadfast and you said, oh, I'm going to stick to it, well, it could prevent you from doing something else or taking a risk or an opportunity that presented itself to you. But you don't, because you put it down in stone on your budget and say, well, my budget doesn't allow me to do that. If that budget doesn't allow you to do it, it will keep you from looking at opportunities that might not otherwise have been, because people do their budgets, they do it the year before. Well, you don't know what's coming the year ahead.
And a great point, it takes life and turns it into work instead of just being able to be spontaneous and enjoy things. So
right. So here at MotoExotica, we like to present things in a new and different way. I was one of the first guys out there on eBay. Then we were one of the first guys out there to put models on cars. And you wouldn't believe some of the flack we got because we put attractive women on the cars on eBay. And, I'm like, all right, guys, if you haven't watched television lately, I guess, you're not hip to what's going on. So.
Well, before we leave the calculated risks, they lead to some very enjoyable rewards. This is this other video that I saw. This is just from a couple of weeks ago. This is
right.
God, this is you really.
And right here, what you're seeing, those two people, that's a blind snowboarder being led by his guide. So I'd tell anybody that's afraid to go skiing, you just think about that.
And who is this guy in this amazing ski jacket?
Yeah, right. I've been skiing since I was 14 years old, and that is another passion. And I will tell you what, I got on my skis here. I'm 61 years old. I hadn't skied in about 5 years, but went out to Steamboat and just ripped it.
This is so great, Scott. What's on that selfie stick?
That is a new camera that my cohort Mark brought with us, and it's a 360 camera. So it's like a GoPro, but there's a camera on each side of the GoPro. So it's literally taking a 360-degree image that then you're able to edit at any angle. So when you see some of these shots going back behind my head and stuff, I mean, it's literally capturing 360 degrees the whole way. Then when you do your edit, you can take like this here, that, you know, that's a whole different view that you would normally have. And yeah, I love skiing. It's getting out in nature. Colorado is God's country, and it's definitely good for the soul. I'd say get outside. You know, if things are going down and things don't feel right, just go take a walk outside. A lot of people say, oh, this freezing gets me down, it gets me out. I'm like, it doesn't have to, you know, particularly when it was cold and freezing here in St. Louis. I just go out with the dogs and take them for a walk. Things are great.
This is amazing. I think you've done more for the Colorado Convention and Visitors Bureau than their entire advertising campaign did. We've also got a few photos that we'd like to go through and have you tell us a little bit about them, because it gives us an idea of your sense of joy, your enthusiasm, and your love of life. Who's this guy?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Supermodel.
That was another me. Look at that hair. Oh, my God. Oh, that was our trip to Saudi Arabia. So that's another thing that just came our way, and got presented with an opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia. And there was a lot of guys that just said, I'm not going to Saudi Arabia with cars. I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Mark and I went on this venture for 10 days. The Crown Prince had invited a number of people there, shipped our cars over, gave us the opportunity to have an auction there. We sold absolutely nothing, as well as a host of other people from Kindig to Chip Foose was all there. I mean, all these personalities were there. And so so once they had the auction, nobody sold anything, and it wasn't for lack of trying. But after I realized that it was a bust and we weren't going to sell any cars, we still had a lot of time left. So we had a driver, and we had that driver take us all around, where some of the people that went, I mean, it was hard enough to get people to go in the first place. And then there were those that got there and they just went back and forth to the show, but didn't venture out around the country. And we were there in a moment in time where nobody had been able to go into Saudi Arabia unless you were contracted or if you were military. So we were there on a government visa, and that was our guide, Yasser. And he took us to the edge of the earth, is what this place was known as. And it's an ancient seabed. So, and it was in the middle of literally nowhere. A lot of Saudis had never even seen this place. We went there, we got to this place, we couldn't get in, the gate was locked. Next thing you know, Yasser went up to this Bedouin tent, and he whistled up to us and he said, coffee. And we went, and these guys took us in, gave us coffee. It was, and then they took us all the way there. I mean, we had a four-wheel it back of about 15 miles through this ancient seabed to get to this place. So
it's another example, Scott, of how your passion led to these great opportunities. Somebody on our Facebook page just wrote in, what you do is you take lemons and you make lemonade. What a great philosophy of life, because that kind of does explain you. Look at this world that you have built around you from your passion. And again, it's not just about the cars, it's about you and who you are, and that the cars bring out, you know, for the biggest part, right?
Right, absolutely. It just, you know,
look at that.
You just don't know what's going to come the next day. And I've done some reflecting as now I'm into my 60s. And I say we all have 3 chapters in our life, and it's a pretty short book. The first chapter is 1 to 30, if you will, and that's kind of the learning chapter. Then you got the working chapter is 30 to 60. And nobody's going to fight me on chapter 3 because we don't know when it ends, So it's 60 to 90. Does that give you 30, 60, 90? I'd say that was being pretty lenient. I don't know what the exact word is, but yes. And then I come up with a new term as well as I approach, as I'm in this third chapter. And that's my term ROA, not ROI, not return on investment, but return on aggravation. Because ROI really only works at work. It works for when you take money in, you want money out. But ROA can work with, I don't want to go out with that couple. I just don't find them fun. Or I'm not going back to that restaurant. Everybody says it's great, but it sucks. It's not worth the aggravation to go there. So the ROA factor now is something that I put through my head a lot more than I used to, and try and do those things that don't bring you aggravation or angst, so that you can live your best life. And it just applies to a lot of different things.
And Scott, you're in an age when we were growing up. If we would have met somebody this age now, they would have been sitting in the middle of a room watching reruns of Matlock on a small TV up in the corner, sitting in the recliner waiting for the end. How do you view age? It doesn't seem like it's slowing you down at all.
No, it's not. I mean, I've got, my dad is going to be almost 90. He's going to be 89 years old this year. He's got a brother and sister still alive that are 90 and 92. And I've always had a youthful family that always pursued their passions and try to get the best out of life. So they've been great role models. My mom, God rest her soul, she was taken last year by cancer, so F cancer. But she was the one that taught us to live life to the fullest. And her standard line was, life is no dress rehearsal. And if you get up every morning and let that run through your head with the ROA factor, it'll take you a long way. That's for sure.
Scott, this has been fantastic. You're such a great story to tell. Your life hasn't happened by accident, but completely by intent, which is another great point. You've worked hard to be who you are, and it doesn't appear that's going to change anytime soon, and that is inspiring for all of us to hear. Folks, Scott has a very lively website. If you're a classic car person, you'll love it. You need to check it out, and even if you're not, it leads to Scott's YouTube page, filled with those fascinating, interesting videos, including the trip to Saudi Arabia. They're creative, interesting, and well-made. Just check out MotoExotica.com to find out more. Our thanks to Scott Brandt. What a great and amazing guy. I knew he'd be an excellent guest. This is a part of the program where we like to share a motivational meme with you. It's usually from a big-time celebrity, a movie star, sports figure, or world leader. And today, ours comes from Scott Brandt. Scott, take a look at your quote here and read it for us.
Don't dream it, be it. And really, so that came from Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? I mean, I went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show on opening night, for God's sakes, before it was a cult film.
That's fantastic. And what a great saying, too. I'm going to etch that somewhere in my head and not forget it. And I do want to remind everybody, if you'd like a little more hope, inspiration, and possibility in your life, and come on, who doesn't want to? You really owe it to yourself to check out growingbolder.com. In addition to this awesome page on Facebook, Growing Boulder's a television show seen across the nation on public TV stations. We've got a radio show, a podcast on NPR, and talk about a great gift. We've got an amazing magazine sure to make a difference in your life, and you will find that at growingbolder.com. Boy, what a great Facebook response we've had today. Tons of people from all over the country, Scott. Actually, somebody from St. Louis is tuned in as well. People that talk about their first cars. It triggers memories in all of us and really takes us back to a simpler time in all of our lives. So it's you on one hand, because you can articulate this so well in a way that takes it out of just the sheet metal world, and it's the cars themselves, the connection to our past, that have really made this a special interview.
Great, and I appreciate you having me. And I would tell you, take your kids to a car show so that passion and that love of what we had in the past, doesn't get lost in the future, because nobody really cares about cars much anymore. It's become an appliance, and pretty soon you're going to say, take me home, and that car's going to drive you there, and you're going to be reading your Kindle while it does.
And you know, your showroom in St. Louis, we should let people know as well, you don't have to be in the market. You don't have to be looking. It's a museum.
Oh, yeah. We've got tons of memorabilia, just nostalgia. We give free tours. We talk cars and shop. It's free to come in, so everybody's welcome. We're at 270 and 44 if you're here in St. Louis. Come down and see us. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Again, I want to thank Scott Brandt from MotoExotica for being our guest, and we'd like to thank all of you for being here and helping spread the word about Growing Bolder. We all have so much to contribute as we age, and if we make some decent choices along the way and take care of ourselves, we could end up with so many more years of being able to drink in all of those things that life has to offer. Yeah, we'll have our challenges, our illnesses, financial worries, relationship problems, and we will have to cope with a lot. But come on, who's stronger than you are? We've made it this far. Live your life. Do what you love. Enjoy being you for as long as you can, because that's growing bolder. I'm Bill Schaefer. Have a great week.
Growing bold.